All humans got transported into the stomachs of 100-ton giant fish. Outside is a world with only oceans and no land. Every once in a while, the giant fish will swallow seawater that carries supply crates, which flows into the giant fish's stomach. When people open the crates, they get water and food, plus items or blueprints that help them survive in the stomach. The giant crucian carp also swallows dangerous marine creatures. Humans can only survive if they keep getting stronger. The crucian carp feeds on algae. Every time it eats, a large amount of seawater flows into its stomach. When all seawater drains out, lots of algae are left behind. The crucian carp stops swimming at this point to digest the algae in its stomach. The seaweed will very slowly move toward the digestion pool in the stomach. I got a cheat power that lets me hear the crucian carp's thoughts. I found out that if I throw seaweed into the digestion pool voluntarily, it will speed up the carp's digestion, so the crucian carp will swim for a longer time. That's why the supplies I get every day are way more than what other people get. But this time, when I was moving seaweed, an accident happened. Something cut my arm, leaving a long gash on it. I scrambled back in a panic. Then the sound of a shell hitting the stomach wall echoed around. Since my arm kept bleeding, I needed to find a way to bandage it as soon as possible. So I held my breath and moved toward the seaweed pile little by little until finally, I saw what that unknown creature looked like. It was an unusually large shrimp with a sharp spike on its head. That spike must have cut my arm, but it didn't seem aggressive at all. It just kept bouncing in place. My fear faded away right then and was immediately replaced by anger. 'Cause I don't have any medical supplies right now. I could easily die from wound infection. I angrily kicked the giant shrimp far away so it wouldn't cut me again with that spike. Then I tore a strip of cloth from my undershirt and wrapped the wound roughly. After the bleeding stopped, I kept carrying seaweed to the digestion pool, but every time I reached out my hand, I was super careful, just in case there was a second giant shrimp. When I finished moving all the seaweed, I started thinking about how to deal with this giant shrimp. I actually thought about just kicking it straight into the digestion pool, but I didn't want to waste it. It's hard shrimp shell. If I can peel it off intact, it can fit perfectly over my forearm. If I run into aggressive creatures later, it can provide some protection, and the spike on the shrimp's head can also be used as a knife. With that in mind, I decided to kill this giant shrimp. Then I picked up a piece of wood from my supply crate and swung it straight at the giant shrimp. Then I kept hitting its weak head over and over again. I hit it for more than 10 whole minutes before I finally killed it. Then I stepped on the shrimp's body with one foot and stomped hard on its head with the other foot. The spike broke right off under my foot. Then I picked up the spike and slowly peeled the shell off the shrimp bit by bit. Looking at the crystal clear shrimp meat, I swallowed hard. I thought to myself, I wish I had a fire, 'cause I'm not used to eating raw meat, let alone raw meat from this unknown world. There's no way I'd eat that raw. The stomach wall started shaking slightly right then. I knew the crucian carp was starting to swim. After I put the shrimp meat into my supply crate, I glanced at the crudely bandaged wound on my arm. Blood was already seeping through the bandage. I knew this rough treatment wouldn't work at all, so I opened the World Trade Channel on my system interface to see if I could trade for medical supplies that can stop bleeding. But most people were trying to trade for food right now. That made me really nervous. Luckily, after searching nonstop, I finally saw a post about trading medical supplies. Medical hemostatic bandage. 1 for 3 loaves of bread. Medical supplies are life-saving goods. First come, first served. I frowned and mumbled to myself, 3 loaves of bread? That's such a rip-off. But my arm was already oozing blood. I couldn't wait any longer. But I only have 2 loaves of bread right now. That's not enough for the trade at all. So I clicked on the seller's profile picture and decided to haggle with him. Dude, 3 loaves is way too much. How about 1 loaf instead? He replied really fast. No way, this is a life-saving item. Look around the trade channel. Is anyone else selling medical supplies? What's up, buddy? Are you hurt? I didn't plan on telling him the truth, so he wouldn't jack up the price. No, not really. I just have a very strong sense of crisis prevention, so I like to prepare things ahead of time. Fair enough, buddy. What you said makes total sense. Then I'm not going to trade my medical hemostatic bandage anymore. I'll keep it for emergencies. Thanks for the heads up, buddy. I panicked right away. Come on, no way, dude. How about 2 loaves of bread, huh? Buddy, you're actually injured, aren't you? Damn, he found out. Come to think of it, that makes sense. It's only the second day we've been in this world. While most people are trading food right now, I'm the only one trying to trade for medical supplies. That already says it all. 2 loaves of bread, 1 bottle of mineral water. That's all the food I have left. If you still won't trade, then there's nothing I can do. I sent that message super firmly, and that really is all my food. If the trade goes through, all I'll have left is 2 bottles of mineral water. If none of the 3, supply crates today have food in them. I'll have to survive on just water. The other person replied, Buddy, don't think everyone's that bad, okay? I'm not gonna jack up the price on you. Tell you what, 1 loaf of bread, 1 bottle of mineral water, and I'll trade with you. When I saw this message, I was over the moon right away, but it also felt a little too good to be true. Did I actually run into a nice person? Then the other person sent the trade request. Sure enough, it was 1 loaf of bread and 1 bottle of water. I clicked confirm trade without hesitation. The bread and mineral water in the supply crate flashed blue light, then disappeared in an instant. In its place was a roll of medical hemostatic bandage. I grabbed it right away, untied the cloth strip on my wound, cleaned the wound with half a bottle of mineral water, gritting my teeth through the pain. Then I wrapped up the wound properly. The bleeding finally stopped. Just then, a private message popped up on the system interface. See, buddy, I didn't take advantage of your tough spot, right? Can you tell me how you got injured? I chuckled softly. This guy's smart. He obviously wanted to do me a favor, then find out how I got hurt from me. After all, the inside of the crucian carp's stomach is surrounded by soft, fleshy walls on all sides. It's really hard to get injured here. So the reason I got hurt is obviously important information. I didn't hide it either. I just told him straight up about the giant shrimp. Shortly after the conversation ended, the sound of seawater came from the stone tunnel direction. I quickly moved the algae oxygen tank. Next to the stone tunnel partition, this place takes the least impact from the seawater. Then I put all the supply crates on top of the algae oxygen tank. The seawater won't reach that high. This way I won't have to lift the supply crates every time later on. After the seawater receded, a new supply crate washed in this time. Obtained 10 stones, 10 portions of soil, 10 portions of licorice. Why is it all materials? I need food. I only have 1 loaf of bread left right now. A little while later, the crucian carp swallowed the second supply crate. Obtained small planter box blueprint. It's not food, but I was still pretty happy about it. You can tell from the name that planter boxes are for growing food. But I'm still missing some materials right now, so I can't make it yet. A few hours later, the last supply crate washed in. Before opening it, I prayed, Please, please give me food. Ding obtained 1 apple. Banana? Okay, it's definitely food. Even if it's just fruit. It's not as filling as bread, but it's just enough to get me through to the day after tomorrow. Just then, the giant fish's voice rang out in my head. I'm tired, I'm going to sleep. So I went to rest too. When the giant fish started moving again, I woke up too. All I have to do now is wait for the giant fish to eat. In the meantime, I opened the world chat channel to check on how the other survivors are doing. Hey pros, I'm out of food. All I have left is 1 watermelon seed. Can someone help me out? I'll trade it for just 1 loaf of bread. What the hell is a watermelon seed good for? We don't even know how to grow stuff yet. And you actually want to trade it for a loaf of bread. Dude, stop spamming. You've been spamming since yesterday. Right now, everyone only gets 1 supply crate a day. Whether you get food or not is all luck. Most people are short on food. Who would trade you for a useless watermelon seed? I saw this message. I thought for a second. Watermelon seeds can definitely be grown in the planter box. So I clicked on that guy's profile picture and sent him a message. He replied really fast. Bro, you want to trade for watermelon seeds? Yeah, but I'm not trading bread for it. I'm trading raw shrimp meat. No problem, anything edible works. But bro, where'd you get the shrimp from? He was obviously a bit surprised. I briefly told him how I got the shrimp meat. I'm not used to eating raw meat. It'll go bad in a few days if I keep it. So I might as well trade it for your watermelon seeds. Thanks so much, bro. The watermelon seeds got traded over to me the next second. Whoa, this shrimp meat is huge. Bro, my name is Jung Hai Tao. If you need any help later, I'll definitely be there for you. After exchanging a few pleasantries, I closed the system interface. After a while, the crucian carp started eating. I also got ready to carry seaweed, 'cause I was scared the big shrimp would attack me again. I wrapped my forearm today with the shrimp shell I peeled yesterday for protection. Then before every time I carry seaweed, I would carefully poke around in the seaweed a few times, and sure enough, I ran into 3 big shrimp during that time, even more than yesterday. But since I had the sharp spikes on me, I took them out really easily this time. Not long after, today's first supply crate rushed into the unclosed space. Obtained tin plate canned yellow peach. I was overjoyed. This is great. It's super high in sugar. It can give me a lot of energy. I was happily waiting. For the second supply crate, Zhang Haitao sent me a message. Bro, do you have any more of that spiny krill meat? I was stunned for a second. How did you know the big shrimp are called spiny krill? It's in the illustrated handbook. I found it by accident. I immediately opened the illustrated handbook. There was indeed a new creature added. No wonder they always hide in the seaweed piles. Turns out algae are their food. But a question popped into my head right away. Wait, so why hasn't anyone else ever encountered spiny krill before? After thinking it over carefully, I thought of one possibility. Could it be that I help the crucian carp speed up digestion every time? So its daily activity time is way longer than other crucian carps. That's why it swam to the sea area where spiny krill live. That's probably it. Looking at it this way, I'm already way ahead of everyone else. But this news didn't make me happy. I was even a bit worried. The giant fish is getting further and further away from its birth waters. It'll run into more and more marine creatures. If the giant fish swallows a marine creature that I can't defend against right now, I'll be totally dead for sure. Bro, spiny krill meat is such good stuff. Eating it gives you a little strength boost. So I want to use the blueprint I just got to trade for another spiny krill meat with you. After seeing this message, I was immediately shocked. Spiny krill meat can actually add a stat point. What blueprint did you get? It's an armor blueprint. It's called the spiked helmet. It seems like it's made from spiny krill shells. I was overjoyed again. What a coincidence. It's exactly what I need. An armor blueprint delivered right to my door. Then I chose to trade without hesitation and checked it right away. Materials required for spiked helmet. 3 complete spiny krill shells. 5 cloth pieces. I have just enough shrimp shells. I just don't have any cloth pieces yet. So I decided to first see what I can get from today's supply crates. If I don't get any cloth pieces, I'll go to the trade channel to trade for 5. Then I took from the supply crate a piece of spiny krill meat and planned to try a bite. Surprisingly, it tasted pretty good. Spiny krill meat used strength +1. After hearing the system notification tone, I quickly opened my body stat panel. Strength actually increased by 1 point, but I didn't feel any change in my body. It's probably only 1 point, so the effect isn't obvious. 2 or 3 hours later, today's second supply crate rushed into the unclosed space. Obtained 10 stones, 10 pieces of wood, 10 cloth pieces. I was overjoyed. Got the cloth pieces. Then I opened the blueprint for the spiked helmet. Click to craft. 3 spiked krill shells and 5 cloth pieces turned into blue light. Soon a helmet with 3 sharp spikes on top appeared right in my hand. I tried it on. Turns out it fits perfectly. Then I took it off again and carefully put it in an empty supply crate. I'll wear it when I move seaweed tomorrow. Just then, Zhang Haitao sent me a message. Bro, when I ate the spiked krill meat, but I didn't get any strength boost this time. I nodded, not surprised at all. Looks like spiked krill meat only. Gives strength attribute boosts the first time you eat it. Then Zhang Haitao's message sounded kind of embarrassed. Brolong, the blueprint I traded you just now, is pretty rare, you know? So can you add another spiked krill meat to the trade? I only had 2 to begin with. I traded 1 to you and ate the other one myself. I'll see tomorrow if I can get more. I'll give you another one then. I didn't make a big deal out of it. After all, armor blueprints are definitely more valuable than a piece of spiked krill meat. But I also couldn't be sure if what Zhang Haitao said was true. What if the second spiked krill meat he eats still gives him extra strength points, and he's just lying to me on purpose? That's not totally out of the question. So the remaining piece of spiked krill meat, I'll eat it tomorrow first, and only if it doesn't give me more strength points. Will I trade it to him? Not long after, the sound of churning seawater came from the stone path. Today's last supply crate is here. Ding, you obtained 1 heating pack. I was overjoyed. Does that mean I can cook the spiked krill meat tomorrow? But I quickly dropped that thought. No way, nope. This heating pack can only be used once. It's way too wasteful to use it on the only piece of krill meat I have. When I woke up again, it was already the 4th day since I came to this world. The first thing I did was Eat the spiked krill meat for breakfast. Jiang Haitao didn't lie to me, sure enough. It really didn't give me any more strength. That made me a little disappointed. After a while, the crucian carp started eating. I put on the spiked helmet I made yesterday. I was waiting to move the seaweed when suddenly I heard the cute, childish voice of the crucian carp. Ugh, so annoying. Why is everything this crap? They keep stealing my food. The carp sounded really angry. It's probably the spiked krill that also eat algae, stealing food from it. Looks like there'll be a lot of spiked krill in the seaweed today. I need to be careful when I move the seaweed later. Plus, it looks like the crucian carp has swum to an area where spiked krill are super abundant. Suddenly, the entire stomach space started shaking violently. Then it started tilting and ended up almost completely vertical. I wasn't expecting it and slammed into the fleshy wall. Luckily, the wall was soft, so other than feeling a little dizzy, I didn't hurt any other part of my body, but all the seawater in the algae oxygen tank spilled out. Also, the supply crates I've collected over the past few days were scattered everywhere. I immediately hugged one of the supply crates tight, since it had canned yellow peaches and the heating pack inside. Those two precious items can't get damaged, no way. My mind was filled with questions and panic right then. What's happening? Did the giant fish get attacked by another creature? Even though the giant fish is super huge, in this unknown world, there's definitely a chance it could run into an even bigger creature that attacks it. Suddenly there was a loud bang, a thunderous explosion that passed through the giant fish's body and into the enclosed space I was in. The strong sound wave hit my whole body. It felt like my head got hit really hard. My head was throbbing in pain. Steal my food, huh? I'll smack you all away with my tail. The carp's inner voice that suddenly rang out made me realize what was causing all the weird stuff immediately. Oh wow, it was just smacking krill. The heart that was in my throat finally relaxed. The stomach space also went back to normal. After resting for a bit, I stood the algae oxygen tank back up, even though there was barely any seawater left in it. Luckily, the crucian carp was about to start eating soon. I can just fill it up then. The supply crates that were scattered all over the floor, I carried back one by one. Splash, splash. The crucian carp started eating. Seawater poured in. I immediately opened the system interface, found the algae oxygen tank, clicked repair once, and seawater automatically filled it up. Then I got ready to start today's seaweed moving woe. I was also careful not to get stabbed by the spiny krill, but after I finished moving all of them, to my pleasant surprise, there were actually as many as 10 dead spiny krill in the seaweed. They'd obviously all been smacked to death by the giant fish. The sound of it flicking its tail almost deafened me earlier, no joke. You can imagine how powerful that was, and we're only on the first feeding round today, and I've already got 10 of them. So by the time it's done feeding for the day, I should have at least 50 to 60 total, right? But I figured if I just leave them piled here, the seawater will wash them away in the next round. So I came up with an idea. I'll make another algae oxygen tank, then arrange them in a V shape against the stomach wall. Put the spiny krill in the triangular space in the middle. I've got plenty of materials anyway. An extra algae oxygen tank won't hurt. Soon the second round of feeding started. I piled the spiny krill in the corner and shielded them with my body to block the seawater from hitting them. Then I pulled up the blueprint for the algae oxygen tank and successfully built the second one. Then I arranged them in a V shape just like I planned, which perfectly enclosed the 10 spiny krill. Right now, it's my 4th day in this world. While the giant fish was feeding, in the seawater flowing into the stomach, there was an unknown creature several meters long. Even worse, my flashlight died right at this moment. With no light, the inside of the stomach was plunged into total darkness. The next second, the unknown creature leaped out of the water and lunged at me. I couldn't help but stare wide-eyed, trying to make out what was going on, but it was no use. The fear of the unknown grew out of control in the dark. Suddenly, there was a crack sound. My head was hit hard out of nowhere. It felt like some creature's claw was clamping down hard on my spiked helmet, making a sharp scraping noise. I was so terrified that my whole body went numb. My left hand holding the spike was shaking uncontrollably. I kept telling myself to stay calm. Suddenly, I felt something wrap around my neck. The sticky, slippery texture made my scalp tingle instantly. In the pitch black, I automatically assumed it was the tentacle of a huge monster. Then it started tightening. I immediately had trouble breathing, and my face started swelling with blood. This near-death feeling made my adrenaline kick in instantly. Most of my fear and numbness faded right away, and was replaced by pure rage. There was a squelching sound. I swung my left hand hard and stabbed the spike right into that thing, not caring if I accidentally stabbed my own neck. The unknown monster let out a sharp hissing shriek, and I realized the noise was coming from above my head. So I swung the spike upward wildly with my right hand, and soon managed to cut through the creature. The severed part was thrashing like crazy, spraying out tons of stinky fluid, all over my face. Then, the limb wrapped around my neck fell off too. After a while, the monster went completely still, but the claw on my head was still firmly clamped onto my spiked helmet. By this point, the adrenaline was wearing off, and the fear came creeping back. I didn't dare move an inch for a while. I waited until all the seawater had drained away. Then I worked up the courage to hand crank charge my flashlight. The second the light turned on, I saw the severed body of the creature, draped over the algae oxygen tank, dripping blood as it hung there. Then I took off my helmet. I saw 4 sharp anchor-shaped teeth wedged deep into the helmet. When I saw what the whole creature looked like, I broke out in a cold sweat instantly. It didn't bite through my skull. And that was all pure luck. Any later than that, the monster would have bitten straight through my helmet, because the helmet simply couldn't block this monster's sharp teeth. The reason I was okay was entirely thanks to the 3 spikes on top of the helmet. They kept the monster's teeth a good distance, away from the main part of the helmet. That's why the helmet didn't get bitten through. I thought to myself, still shaken. Jiang Haitao really saved my life. Then I opened the creature illustrated guide section of the system interface, and sure enough, I found this monster. Introduction to spearhead worms. It is a parasite that lives inside the bodies of giant creatures. Its sharp teeth can easily bite through an adult skull. Its teeth can be used to make tools. After reading the introduction, I got even more scared thinking about what happened. I survived purely by luck this time. I got and made the spiked helmet blueprint ahead of time. The sound of churning seawater came from the esophagus. That's when I remembered the giant fish hadn't finished feeding yet. So I quickly got the spearhead worm's head off my helmet, toss it aside casually, then put the helmet back on, and I stayed inside the triangular space of the algae oxygenation tank. Luckily, until the crucian finished eating, I didn't run into any other spearhead worms. So I finally came out and started carrying seaweed and picking up spiny krill. Throughout this process, every once in a while, I'd give the flashlight an extra charge to make sure I have enough power for emergencies. That encounter with an unknown creature in the dark just now, I really don't want to go through that again. Half an hour later, I moved all the seaweed into the digestion tank and dumped the spearhead worm's body inside too. I did a quick count. I got a total of 58 spiny krill today. 8 of them are still alive and fresh. They weren't attacked by the giant fish, so their shells are totally intact. They can be used to make spiny helmets. The remaining 50 have badly broken shells. They're completely unusable, so I decided to sell them on the trade channel later. Then I opened the system interface and tapped on Jiang Haitao's profile pic. I directly gifted him 3 spiny krill right away, plus a brand new spiny helmet I just made. A little while later, today's first supply crate arrived. Got 11 iron ores, 11 copper ores, 10 portions of sand. I was a little surprised. I actually got metal ores from the crate. Next, I'm going to trade spiny krill meat with other survivors. I did a quick calculation. Today's my 4th day in this world. Every day, other survivors can only get 1 supply crate. Counting the one the system gave out on day 1, they have a total of 5 supply crates right now. With my accelerated digestion ability, the distance I swim every day is about 3 times that of other survivors. I first encountered spiny krill on day 2. So after doing the math, I guess today's the day some people will encounter spiny krill. Thinking of this, I immediately opened the world chat channel, and sure enough, people were talking about it. Whoa, a giant shrimp tens of centimeters long. Have any of you run into that? Way more people in the comments were doubting him. Dude, are you hallucinating from hunger? Obviously, very few people have encountered spiny krill up till now. I started to feel a little anxious. In just a few more days, all the other survivors will run into them, and spiny krill will lose a ton of value then. I didn't hesitate any longer. I immediately took the 50 spiny krill I had and split them into 5 different trading options, and listed them on the trade channel. Option 1, 1 blueprint for 1 spiny krill. Option 2, trade for food. 1 can plus 1 loaf of bread, and 1 bottle of water for 1 krill. Option 3, trade for medical supplies. 1 pack for 1 krill. Option 4, trade for metal ores. 10 portions for 1 krill. Option 5, trade for basic materials. 50 portions for 1 krill. Then I sent a message in the world chat. Selling spiny krill meat. Check the trade channel for details. Eating spiny krill meat gives +1 strength stat. Limited stock. First come, first served. The chat blew up right after I sent the message. Some people doubted me. Others were talking about it. Did you lose your mind playing games? +1 strength my ass, you idiot. I don't know if he's an idiot, but you definitely are. There's a character stat panel in the system interface. What do you think the point of that panel is, if not for upgrading stats? After that, lots of people started thinking about whether to trade with me. Others were discussing which of my 5 trade options was a better deal. Pretty soon, other survivors started trading with me one after another. Not long after, I'd already successfully traded 43 krill. The remaining 7 were set aside for blueprint trades. That obviously means blueprints are super rare. Besides, most people who get blueprints will definitely keep them for themselves first. 3 hours later, the Crucian had already swallowed the second supply crate, but still no one traded a blueprint with me. I thought helplessly, I might as well trade these 7 for basic supplies. Then I casually opened the second supply crate. Got 3 bottles of mineral water. I glanced at the huge pile of supplies I got from trades. I mumbled with a smile. Not bad, even though I don't need more water right now. Next, I checked the 3 blueprints I got from trades. Wooden foundation blueprint. Iron dagger blueprint. Spiny leg armor blueprint. My attention immediately put it on the spiked leg armor blueprint. Looks like it's part of the same set as the spiked helmet. Just not sure if I can collect the full set. Then I used all 3 blueprints right away. Wooden foundation blueprint requires 20 pieces of wood. Iron dagger blueprint needs 1 iron nail. And 1 piece of wood. Spiked leg armor blueprint requires 8 spiked krill shells and 10 cloth scraps. I was stunned. Where do I find an iron nail? Looks like I can't make this dagger anytime soon. I only have 5 krill shells right now, though. But I should be able to make it tomorrow. Done checking the blueprints? Next up, check the food I got from the trade. 10 tin cans, 10 loaves of bread, and 10 bottles of mineral water. No need to worry about food for a while. 9 medical supplies. All are medical hemostatic bandages. The rest is a box of anti-inflammatory pills. Total metal ore from the trade is 100 units. 50 units of iron ore. 50 units of copper ore. Last are the basic materials. 500 units total. Then I decided to make a wooden foundation. To see what it looks like, open the blueprint. Click build. Right in front of me appeared a flat surface, supported by 4 wooden stakes. I screamed out in surprise right away. This height is perfect. It won't get flooded by seawater. I don't have to get soaked by seawater multiple times a day anymore. I've been damp and sticky all over these past few days. That feeling was so hard to describe. Aside from being happy, I was a little worried if the wooden foundation was sturdy enough, or if it would get washed away by the seawater. So I pushed it hard. I was shocked to find the 4 stakes of the foundation seemed to be fused with the stomach wall space. It wouldn't budge at all. Then I built 6 wooden foundations in a row. That made up a 2x3 platform. Then I moved all the supply crates onto the platform. No more worrying about the crates getting washed away. Then I remembered the small planter box blueprint. I couldn't build it before. Was it because I didn't have a foundation? My eyes lit up at the thought. I immediately clicked to build the small planter box. It worked. Then I planted the watermelon seeds into the small planter box. But there's no sunlight here. No idea how long it'll take for the watermelons to ripen. I had nothing else to do next. So I just laid down on the dry wooden platform to rest. 3 hours later, the 3rd supply crate arrived. After waiting for the seawater to recede, I jumped down to open the supply crate. Obtained Leviathan giant fish. Accelerated growth. Food guide fragment. I pretty much guessed what this fragment does. It records the types of food that can speed up the growth of crucian carp. But we only have 1 fragment right now. It's useless for the time being. The next day when the crucian carp was eating, I woke up on the foundation too. Remembering getting attacked by the lanceworm yesterday, I immediately retreated to the innermost part of the foundation, so I wouldn't get dragged into the water by it. After carefully scanning around multiple times, I found no signs of the lanceworm. Swimming around in the water, I immediately breathed a sigh of relief. But soon another accident happened. 2 faint glows slowly appeared in the water, looking like 2 eyes that were staring right at me from under the water. After the seawater receded, the light source floated to the surface. What appeared were two glowing spherical creatures. I approached carefully. Then I pulled out the spike at my waist and nudged it. The light slowly dimmed down. I backed up a few steps instinctively, just in case this was some kind of attack from the creature. But it didn't seem interested in me at all. It only moved its 4 tentacles underneath a bit, to right itself again. Then its dim body soon lit up again. I couldn't help but wonder, what kind of creature is this exactly? Then I immediately opened the creature guide. Sunlight ball worm. Body length 10 cm to a food type blood. Evaluation, a glowing parasite. Not very aggressive, maybe can be used for lighting. I was a little speechless. It's another parasite, really, but it's way cuter than the lance worm. Then I suddenly thought of something. Its name is sunlight ball worm. Does that mean it can provide sunlight for the watermelon seeds? I got super excited at this thought. Then I carefully picked it up from the ground. Its 4 tentacles started wiggling non-stop, since they couldn't suck any blood. The glow on its body also dimmed down quickly. Then I walked to where the small planter box was placed. I held the sun sphere worm close to the nearby stomach wall. Its 4 tentacles immediately latched onto it, and as soon as it sucked up blood, it lit up again. I prayed silently in my heart. I hope this works, so the watermelon seeds can sprout. I grabbed the other sun sphere worm and put it on there too. Soon the giant fish finished its first meal of the day. This time I didn't run into aggressive creatures like fuzzy-headed worms. There were only 5 spiny krill. I took them out right away. After I moved all the seaweed, I opened the global chat channel to check how other survivors were doing currently. Sure enough, most people had encountered spiny krill. And there was also some extremely bad news. Someone had realized and put forward a theory, whether moving seaweed into the digestive pool could extend the giant fish's travel distance. As soon as this comment was posted, the global channel blew up with crazy discussions right away. That immediately filled me with a strong sense of crisis. If other people also find this method, my leading advantage will be completely gone. Right at this moment, the first supply crate of the day drifted in with seawater. Obtained 1 armored leviathan deworming coupon. I was stunned. What is this? It was the same size as a banknote, and entirely golden in color. Then a system notification rang in my head. Armored leviathan deworming coupon. After use, you can enter the body of an adult armored leviathan to eliminate all parasites in its stomach wall. You can return once the mission is completed. In the stomach wall space of the armored leviathan, all items you obtain can be brought back. After the system notification ended, I mumbled to myself, looks like this is a ticket to a game-like dungeon, but I didn't use it in a hurry. With my current strength and equipment, even fighting 1 fuzzy-headed worm is very difficult. Then I continued watching other survivors' discussions. Now they have confirmed the theory that actively moving seaweed can speed up the giant fish's movement, but the low oxygen level in the space is still a problem for them. Unless you have an algae oxygen generator like me, if you spend physical strength moving seaweed, you will die from oxygen deprivation. Then someone put forward a suggestion. Speaking of the oxygen shortage problem, there should be a solution for it. As long as you can get blueprints for oxygen-producing items, then the seaweed moving method can be implemented. After seeing this person's comment, my gaze drifted to the algae oxygen generator in the corner behind me. After thinking for a while, I decided to make them in large quantities and sell them at a high price. The only accepted payment item is blueprints. Before other people unlock the algae oxygen generator blueprint, I need to maximize its value. So I sent a message in the global channel. Looks like my luck is pretty good. I just unlocked an algae oxygen generator blueprint. Wait, is that for real? That's insanely lucky. Dude, are you selling the blueprint? Name whatever price you want. Only an idiot would sell that to you. Dude, if you make one, sell it to me? We can negotiate the price. After that, everyone started hitting me up, asking about the price of the oxygen generator. I didn't rush to sell them. Instead, I decided to do a round of hunger marketing first. Calm down, everyone. I don't plan on selling any today. After all, I don't know how much oxygen this oxygen generator can produce yet. So I will test its effect these 2 days. I will start selling the day after tomorrow. Even though I said that, there were still a small number of people DMing me to buy one in advance. A few hours later, the number of DMs reached over 10,000. I directly put forward my condition to them, that they have to trade with blueprints. This turned off most people right away. In the end, only 8 people were willing. But I was still very happy about it. Then when the giant fish finished its next meal, I used the seaweed left in the stomach to make 8 oxygen generators. I successfully traded for 8 blueprints. Soon the second supply crate was sent in. Obtained 1 sweet potato seed. I was in an even better mood at this moment, because seeds are the only thing that can guarantee a stable food source. So I built another small planter box and watered it with half a bottle of water. Then I ate and drank to my heart's content. I have plenty of food right now. There's no need to stay hungry on purpose. Just then a DM popped up. Hi, my name is Chen Xin. I'm the person who put forward the seaweed moving theory in the global channel. Can I trade with you for an oxygen generator? After reading this message, I laughed out of anger. So he was the one who might end, the culprit that's gonna end my lead. And he actually dares to come trade with me. Sorry, not interested. Chen Xin didn't give up. He replied, I'll trade you a blueprint for it. I can even provide all the materials you need. I still turned him down. No deal. But he still wouldn't quit. I know you're trying to use this chance to get ahead of everyone else. But in this unknown world, being ahead alone isn't actually a good thing. The further you get, the closer danger comes to you. Having me around won't help you directly, sure, but we can watch each other's backs and prepare for risks ahead of time. Looking at his message, I thought about it. He's right. When I ran into the fuzzy worm earlier, I almost died. If someone had warned me beforehand, I could have gotten ready earlier. That near-death feeling, I really don't want to go through that again. So yeah, he talked me into it. All right, you make a good point. I'll trade you 1 unit. Pleasure doing business with you, Mr. Joe. After I got the blueprint, I opened it to check it out. It's a pretty decent weapon. The G-fish finished feeding for today, so I decided to get some rest too. Before bed, I glanced at the small planter box. I'd been obsessing over it actually already sprouted. A shocked, happy look immediately crossed my face. The sunsphere worm really can replace sunlight. But then another question popped into my head. This thing is a parasite that feeds on G-fish blood after all. If I collect too many of them, it'll definitely harm the G-fish. So I decided to only keep the plant-feeding ones from now on, and kill all the ones that feed on G-fish. I woke up the next day, and was shocked to see the sprouted watermelon seedling was already over 10 centimeters tall. The sweet potato seedling was 5 to 6 centimeters tall, too. I was over the moon right then. I'll be able to grow my own food really soon. Next, I put on the spiked helmet. Then I used 8 spiked krill shells and 10 pieces of cloth to make a spiked leg armor. Then I opened the 8 blueprints I got from yesterday's trade to check their contents. Turns out there are 4 spiked krill set blueprints inside. Spiked belt, spiked boots, spiked bracers, spiked groin guard. I smiled again at this point. Then I started checking the materials required to craft these blueprints. The spiked set is totally doable. I should be able to craft all of them really soon. I still have 10 krill shells left right now. So I immediately crafted the spiked groin guard and spiked boots first. After putting on 4 pieces of gear, I could clearly feel my body getting heavier. That made me realize something. If I add the other 2 pieces of gear that I haven't crafted yet, I probably won't be able to handle the weight. Then I opened the character stat panel. It says the normal value for every stat across all people is 10. My strength is obviously way below average, so if I want to wear the full set of gear comfortably, I need to find a way to raise my strength stat. I did a rough count. I need to raise my strength stat to at least 15 points. Seawater rushed in not long after. The first supply crate of the day was coming when suddenly something zipped really fast under the water. It left a trail of splashes on the water surface. I instinctively retreated inside the wooden platform and started looking for traces of that creature. My face was super serious right then. I originally thought that creatures would only get swept in by seaweed during the G-fish's feeding phase. Turns out, when the G-fish swallows supply crates, creatures can get in too. But luckily that thing didn't seem interested in attacking me at all. It was instead rushing to get out of this tight space. After a while, all the seawater receded. I saw a 1-meter-long, glowing strip bouncing around on the ground. After a little while, it seemed to run out of energy, and its glow slowly faded, so I carefully walked over and picked it up. It wasn't very heavy, around 10 to 15 kilograms. Then I opened the creature index. Mirror skin barracuda. Length, 1 meter. Description, smooth skin. Extremely fast in water. If you get hit by it, severe cases cause internal organ damage. Its meat is firm and chewy. Its skin can be used to make diving suits. After reading the description, thankfully I've already built the foundation. If it rammed me in the water, the consequences would be unthinkable. I also found out this fish is edible. I just wonder if it can boost stat points like the spiny shrimp. That makes me a little nervous. What I need most right now is more strength. Then I cut it into sashimi with my spiny dagger. After eating a third of it, the system voice chimed in. Dang, you ate mirror skin barracuda. Constitution +1. Speed +1. I was overjoyed. It boosts 2 stats at once. It's not the strength points I was hoping for, though, but getting 2 stat boosts at one time still makes me really happy. Just then, Jiang Haitao sent me a message. Brother Wen, thanks for the spiny krill and helmet you gave me the other day. I just got a recipe just now. I'm giving it to you now, Brother Wen. My eyes lit up immediately. It's the recipe for making fertilizer. That's perfect timing. With fertilizer, the food in the planting box can grow faster, so I can be fully self-sufficient in food sooner. Ding. Level 1 fertilizer crafting recipe. Must be crafted in a compost bin, plus 5 portions of licorice. 5 portions of crucian carp feces. I was stunned. I have both the compost bin and licorice. But where do I find crucian carp feces? Can I get feces from the digestion tank? When I thought of that, I suddenly remembered the dung spoon blueprint I got earlier. Then it clicked right away. The dung spoon is probably for going to the digestion tank to scoop giant fish feces, duh. I immediately used 5 pieces of wood to craft it. Then I added 5 portions of licorice into the compost bin. I walked over to the digestion tank. I dipped the dung spoon into it. When I pulled it out, the cylinder at the end was full of green slime. This must be crucian carp feces. Then I poured all of it into the compost bin. It smelled really bad. I quickly grabbed the lid and covered the compost bin. Now I just wait for the fertilizer to finish crafting. For the rest of the time, I took the weapon blueprint I traded from Chen Xin and crafted it. It was a fairly long bone blade, way better than the old spiny dagger. Then I put the mirror skin barracuda on the trading channel, hoping to trade it for some rare blueprints. Then I crafted a bunch of algae oxygen tanks and spammed the world channel to trade for basic supplies. As of right now, most people already know who I am. Some people are even guessing if I got some kind of cheat to have so much advanced supplies. Then I used the spiny krill shells I traded today and successfully crafted a spiny chest plate. It weighs around 40 jin, but heavy as it is, I have to wear it. At least it protects my body. Before going to bed, I checked what's going on in the planting box. The sprouted watermelon seed has already grown vines. That made me in a great mood. When I woke up again, it was the 7th day in this world. I opened the compost bin lid right away. Clumps of dark green dung balls flew right out of it. I scrambled out of the way in shock. Then a notification dinged in my head. Obtained 10 portions of low-grade fertilizer. Cuts crop growth time by 10% when used. A smile spread across my face. Then I immediately grabbed a storage box. I didn't care at all as I reached in and put 8 portions of it inside. Then I walked over to the small planting box. I took the remaining 2 dung balls and tried tossing them into the planting box. As soon as the dung balls touched the soil, they instantly melted into thick green liquid and seeped straight into the dirt. That should have worked. Pretty convenient, actually. Soon the sound of churning seawater came from the stone path. The crucian carp started feeding. I quickly grabbed the bone blade in my hand. I crouched down and got on high alert to prepare for any possible danger coming up. Suddenly the water surface churned violently. A flesh-colored strip-shaped body that made my blood run cold appeared in front of me. It's another hairy headworm. Hairy headworm. Jowen's heart skipped a beat. Panic showed on his face. That hairy headworm almost killed him before. Every time he thinks about it, he still has lingering fear. Who? Jowen let out a deep breath. Fear came flooding back again. His hand holding the bone blade was trembling uncontrollably. But luckily he had the headlamp lighting the way this time. He didn't have to fumble in the dark like last time and be completely blind to everything around him. Plus, this is the 2nd time he's run into a hairy headworm, and he already has experience killing one. So running into one again this time, Jowen was still scared out of his mind. But his body wasn't like last time, when he was too scared to move at all. Jowen was still squatting on the wooden platform, holding his fishbone knife across his chest. Not making a single sound, he was waiting for the seawater to recede. Time passed slowly. The water level in the enclosed space gradually rose, until it was almost level with the wooden platform. The esophageal diaphragm closed. Seawater stopped rushing in. The shape-shifting leviathan finished its second meal. Next, the seawater in the enclosed space will be drained out. Juwon raised his hand gently, wiping off the sweat that ran from his forehead down to his eyelashes. His stamina was draining fast. The spiked armor he wore was way too heavy. Plus, Juwon had been squatting the whole time, putting huge stress on all his muscles. Thud. But right after Juwon wiped off his sweat, the second he lowered his arm, the previously calm water suddenly exploded. 4 anchor-shaped pincers with a ferocious mouthpart shot over the wooden platform and grabbed hard onto Juwon's head. Juwon never expected the bristleworm would attack him right at this moment. Plus, his full set of armor was so heavy, he didn't have time to stand up and react. His head was clamped tight by the 4 bristleworm pincers. Even though Juwon was startled by the sudden attack, he calmed down immediately. This bristleworm's attack was the same as last time. It also targeted his head. The 3 spikes on top of his spiked helmet once again blocked the attack from the bristleworm's mouth part. Juwon didn't hesitate at all.
He stood up abruptly,
Swung the fishbone knife in his hand, and slashed hard at the bristleworms. Tentacle-like body? This weapon was way better than regular spikes. The blade sank halfway into the bristleworm's body with one slash. Scarlet blood gushed out non-stop. The worm's head perched on top of his head, shrieked in pain. Juwon didn't flinch at all. He swung the fishbone knife again, ready to chop the bristleworm's body clean off. Bang. Another explosion came from the water surface. When Juwon heard that sound, his heart sank. His swinging fishbone knife paused mid-motion. He had a really bad feeling about this. He was just about to adjust his headlamp to check, when something suddenly clamped around his thigh, followed by an extremely strong pulling force. Juwon was already locked in a stalemate with the bristleworm on his head, so he wasn't paying any attention to his legs. When that force pulled him, he lost his balance completely. Thud. Juwon fell hard onto the wooden platform. Combined with the armor, his total weight was a full 254 jin as it slammed onto the wooden platform, making a dull crashing sound. The creature clamped around Juwon's leg, seemed to be trying to drag Juwon into the water. But Juwon was way too heavy. It couldn't move him at all for a moment. Right when Juwon just breathed a sigh of relief, the bristleworm clamped around his head, also started dragging him into the water. One pulling from above, one from below. Both sides pulled at the same time. Juwon was dragged into the water sideways. Splash! Juwon's body slammed into the water, sending up a huge splash, and creating layers of waves at the same time. The waves churned and spread out in all directions. Juwon was terrified as he was dragged into the water. Even though before he fell into the water, he had held his breath in advance, so he wouldn't choke on water. But it all happened so fast, he didn't have time to take a full breath. With his heart pounding like crazy, the oxygen in his body was getting used up extremely fast. He was already starting to feel lightheaded from lack of oxygen, but both Juwon's head and leg were being pulled at the same time. In this seawater that was almost a meter deep, with his current condition, there was no way he could get to the surface. Time passed little by little. The feeling of suffocation got stronger and stronger. Trapped in such a hopeless situation, Juwon decided to go all out. He used every last bit of his strength, felt for the bristleworm's body on his head with his left hand, then used the fishbone blade in his right hand to slice through the bristleworm. If he could quickly kill the bristleworm, clamped onto his head, he'd have a chance to get to the surface. Juwon started cutting the bristleworm's body, frantically and viciously. Maybe the bristleworm was injured too badly. Juwon had only made 2 cuts. When the bristleworm let go of Juwon's head, Juwon was overjoyed. The will to survive made him throw away the fishbone blade in his hand. Then he paddled as hard as he could with both hands and slowly lifted his body to the surface. Gasp! Gasp! Juwon gasped desperately for the oxygen in the enclosed space. He was breathing so hard that his whole body expanded and contracted with each breath. But before Juwon could take more than a few breaths, the creature clamped around his leg, dragged him hard back into the water again. Gurgle, gurgle! Caught off guard, Juwon, who was dragged under, choked on a few big gulps of seawater. The water in his lungs made him feel extremely awful. He flailed his arms wildly to fight his way back to the surface, but he'd barely coughed once. When he got dragged under again, Juwon bobbed up and down in the water, slapping his arms non-stop. To keep himself above the surface, Luckily, the creature clamped onto Zhou Wen's thigh. Didn't seem to have much strength. It couldn't drag Zhou Wen non-stop. It would stop for a bit after pulling him a short distance underwater. That gave Zhou Wen a chance to catch his breath. Zhou Wen also realized the thing clamped onto his thigh was probably a bristleworm too. Now that he knew that, Chuan relaxed a little. Right now, as long as the other bristleworm doesn't attack him, he can stay locked in a stalemate with the bristleworm on his thigh for a while. Once the seawater recedes, it's his turn to fight back. Actually, with the spiked armor he's wearing, the bristleworm can't hurt him at all. It's not that the armor is super hard, it's that the armor is covered in spikes, which completely counters bristleworms. But he can't breathe underwater, so there's nothing he can do right now. Just then, the water level started dropping slowly. Zhou Wen also figured out the pulling pattern of the bristleworm clinging to his thigh. Right before the bristleworm was about to drag him under, he held his breath ahead of time. When the bristleworm ran out of strength, he immediately surfaced to breathe. As the water level got lower and lower, the bristleworm's pulling strength got weaker and weaker, without the water to help it. The bristleworm couldn't drag Zhou Wen anymore. Plus, it had been locked in a stalemate with Zhou Wen for ages, so it had no energy left to move at all. But its pincers still wouldn't let go of Zhou Wen's thigh. Zhou Wen pointed his headlamp beam at his thigh, and found the bristleworm on his thigh had actually had its mouthparts blocked by the spikes on his leg armor. That let him breathe a total sigh of relief. Once he knew he was completely safe, an overwhelming wave of exhaustion washed over his whole body. His body suddenly felt like it had no strength left, and he collapsed to the ground. He couldn't get up at all for a while. He'd just been wearing that heavy spiked armor, thrashing around in the water for ages. If the life or death situation hadn't kicked his adrenaline into gear, he never would have been able to move that much. Now that the deadly threat of drowning was gone, he felt like every muscle and bone in his body was screaming. A strong wave of drowsiness hit him. His upper eyelids felt so heavy. He really wanted to fall asleep. Slap. A loud slap echoed through the entire stomach cavity. Zhou Wen took off his spiked helmet and smacked himself hard across the face. He hit really hard, and it hurt like hell. After that slap, the stinging pain on his face woke Zhou Wen up a little. He quickly put his spiked helmet back on, then adjusted his headlamp to look for the bristleworm he'd injured earlier. He didn't think much of it at first, but the sight woke him up completely, because the injured bristleworm was actually lying on the ground, sucking the blood of the Leviathan avatar. What the hell? Zhou Wen yelped in shock. He didn't know where he got the strength, but he shot up from the ground, then found the fishbone knife he'd dropped when he was drowning, and sliced up the bristleworm on his leg in a few hits, then rushed over to the injured blood-sucking bristleworm, and stabbed it multiple times, finally killing the blood-sucking bristleworm. The Sunsphere coccidia are tiny. It's fine if they suck a little blood. But you're this huge. I can't let you keep sucking blood forever. Zhou Wen pointed his fishbone knife at the severed head of the bristleworm. He snarled angrily. Then Zhou Wen carefully pried the bristleworm's pincers off the stomach lining. Luckily, the tiny barbs on the bristleworm didn't do much damage to the stomach lining. They only left a few shallow cuts, so it wouldn't cause too much damage to the Leviathan avatar's stomach. But Zhou Wen had just relaxed. When he saw blood seeping out of the stomach wall, it clearly wasn't the bristleworm's blood. He moved the entire bristleworm head aside, and a round, tennis ball-sized, bloody hole appeared on the stomach wall. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Furious, Zhou Wen kicked the bristleworm's head to the side. Judging by the size of the hole, it was clearly bitten by the bristleworm's round mouth parts. How am I supposed to stop the bleeding? Zhou Wen stared at the round wound that kept bleeding, getting a little anxious. He didn't need to tell anyone how important the Leviathan avatar was to him. Nothing bad could happen to it, no matter what. But he has no hemostatic tools on him right now. Even medical hemostatic bandages can't be wrapped around the stomach wall anyway. Oh, right! Sunlight Kochi! Zhou Wen suddenly had a brainwave. He thought of using Sunlight Kochi to stop the bleeding. So he quickly took off the spiked chest plate he was wearing, climbed onto the wooden platform, grabbed a Sunlight Kochi and brought it down. Hope this works. Zhou Wen pressed the Sunlight Kochi over the bleeding hole. Then he saw the 4 tiny tentacles of the Sunlight Kochi stick tightly to the nearby stomach wall. It sealed the bleeding hole completely. It worked. Zhou Wen was over the moon. Though this wound is nothing for the massive Leviathan avatar, really, but since Zhou Wen lives in its stomach, and he has a way to stop the bleeding. Of course, he's going to help take care of it. All crises are now fully resolved. That overwhelming wave of exhaustion hit him again, but he still can't rest right now. Because the Leviathan Avatar's feeding phase isn't over yet. Shu Wen used every last bit of his strength, carried the spiked chest plate up to the wooden platform, and put it back on. No matter what, you've got to wear protective armor at all times. This spiked armor is heavy, sure. But when those two furry headworms attacked just now, Zhou Wen didn't get hurt at all, and he even killed both of them, so the importance of the spiked armor is obvious. Shu Wen also made a decision. During the Leviathan Avatar's feeding process, he's not going to waste time checking the water surface anymore. After almost drowning just now, Shu Wen suddenly realized something. Why did he even have to monitor movements on the water surface? That's totally unnecessary. When seawater rushes into the stomach space and then recedes, he can just hide the whole time. Wait until the seawater is gone, then check if any creatures got into the stomach space. That way, without seawater, even if Zhou Wen gets attacked by a creature, he won't get dragged into the seawater and have to fight to stay afloat in it. As for where to hide, of course it's behind the stone-built algae oxygen tank, duh! When he ran into the spearhead worm in the water earlier, he was standing right behind the algae oxygen tank. That basically blocked the spearhead worm from attacking him underwater. Now, Zhou Wen just needs to carry the algae oxygen tank up to the wooden platform and place it right at the edge of the wooden platform. It acts just like a wall, blocking any possible attacks from underwater creatures. I wonder if there's a house blueprint. Shu Wen suddenly thought, if he could build a house, when seawater rushes into the open cavity, he could just hide inside the house. That would be way safer. Zhou Wen was thinking about all these random stuff. At the same time, he used the system interface to lift the algae oxygen tank under the wooden platform up, placed it at the edge of the wooden platform as planned. Earlier, Chen Xing came to him in advance to trade for an algae oxygen tank. He only has one left now. Originally, during the Leviathan Avatar's feeding phase, moving seaweed with just one tank would have been enough. But he's extremely tired right now. He has no energy to move seaweed at all. Also, the Leviathan Avatar's feeding phase isn't over yet. There could be more aggressive creatures entering the stomach space at any time. He has to wait until the feeding phase is completely over before he can start moving seaweed. Ugh, can't sleep. Shu Wen was yawning nonstop. He was all groggy. To stop himself from falling asleep, he pinched his thigh hard. But it didn't work very well. Finally, Zhou Wen decided to eat a canned fruit. To replenish some of his lost energy, crack! The canned fruit opened. It was a canned orange. There was lots of syrup and small pieces of fruit inside. Zhou Wen couldn't just grab the fruit with his hands, so he just drank the syrup directly. The sweet and sour syrup entered his mouth, stimulating his taste buds. It perked the groggy Zhou Wen up a little. He didn't rush to finish the whole canned orange. He just sipped the syrup little by little, keeping his interest in the can going to fight off his sleepiness. Splash, splash. After a while, the Leviathan Avatar ate again. Seawater rushed into the stomach space. Zhou Wen hid behind the algae oxygen tank, opened the system interface, used a blueprint to build another algae oxygen tank. The two algae oxygen tanks were placed side by side at the edge of the wooden platform. Zhou Wen's sleeping space on the wooden platform has been severely squeezed. Originally on the 6-square-meter wooden platform, Zhou Wen only had 2 square meters of sleeping space. Now that the 2 algae oxygen tanks are placed here, there's only 1 square meter left. It's really a bit cramped. Then Zhou Wen didn't care what was in the water anymore. He just hid behind the algae oxygen tank eating canned oranges. He stayed hidden until the entire feeding phase was completely over. No accidents happened during that time. He finished the canned oranges, plus he'd rested for so long. Zhou Wen had regained a lot of energy. He put away the tin can. Zhou Wen poked his head out from behind the algae oxygen tank. The headlamp beam swept around the area. No large creatures were spotted. During the feeding phase just now, Zhou Wen didn't hear any sounds of moving creatures either. That means for the last few feeding sessions, no creatures entered the stomach wall space. But to be on the safe side, Zhou Wen jumped off the wooden platform wearing his spiked armor. Then he walked back and forth through the seagrass piles a few times, to further confirm that inside the seagrass piles, there were no aggressive creatures hiding inside. He took off the heavy spiked armor he was wearing and started moving the seagrass. 2 hours later, Joen finally finished moving all the seagrass. Moving seagrass took a bit longer today. Can't help it, he was dragged into the water by 2 bristle worms earlier. He used up way too much energy in the water, and he didn't have time to rest properly. His body had been exhausted this whole time. He can finally get a good rest now. Joen lay down on the only half-meter wide, 2-meter long wooden platform. His whole body was completely relaxed. He had roughly 3 hours of rest time next, but he didn't dare to sleep. Without an alarm clock, he couldn't make himself wake up after 3 hours. Roughly 3 hours later is when the Leviathan will swallow in the supply crates. But the supply crate phase isn't safe anymore now. If he runs into dangerous creatures then, and he's asleep, he wouldn't even know how he died. To stop himself from falling asleep, Joen simply opened the world chat channel to see what other people were talking about. Geneva, refund our money. Do you even have the decency to face us? Huh? What's going on here? Joen was totally confused. As soon as he opened the world chat channel, he saw tons of people cursing him out. After skimming through the messages they sent, Joen figured out why they were cursing him. The algae oxygen tank is totally useless. I just finished moving seagrass. I can barely breathe. I almost died from lack of oxygen. For real. A lot of us still haven't gotten one in trade. You're not lying to us, are you? You just want us to buy a second one, right? What he said is true. I also traded for an algae oxygen tank, and I moved the seagrass too. After I finished moving the seagrass, I couldn't breathe properly. I thought I was gonna die. I only just recovered now. Scammer. Didn't you say that with an algae oxygen tank? We don't have to worry about lack of oxygen. See? None of these so-called big shots are good people. This is obviously him trying to hurt us on purpose. Scammer, come out and give us an explanation. Yeah, and give us back our 100 basic supplies. And compensate us on top of that. Refund! Refund! What's wrong with these people? They're so spoiled. After reading their messages, Joen was totally confused by the cursing. Anyone who wants to return the algae oxygen tank can send me a private message. I'll give you back your 100 basic supplies. Joen wasn't panicked at all. Algae oxygen tanks are scarce and hard to get right now. If some people want to return them, he'll just refund the basic materials directly. He doesn't believe everyone is an idiot. 10 people contacted him to return their algae oxygen tanks. Joen had no complaints at all as he returned the 100 basic materials to them. Then he added these 10 people to the blacklist for algae oxygen tank purchases. He relisted 10 algae oxygen tanks for sale, 100 basic materials per unit, first come, first served. Joen relisted them on the trading channel. Then he sent a message to the world chat channel. How come only 10 people returned their orders? Are the remaining 20 people idiots? They don't even know they got scammed. He actually relisted them again. How does he even have the nerve? It's already been exposed. Does he really think someone will still fall for that? But the next second, these people who returned their orders were immediately proven wrong. The 10 algae oxygen tanks had just appeared on the World Trading Channel message board, and they vanished instantly. All 10 units were traded immediately. Are there really that many idiots buying them? We already tried it ourselves. The algae oxygen tank is totally useless. Yeah, that old saying really is true. There are so many scammers. Because there are even more idiots. I don't even know what to say about these people. We already fell for the trap to warn them. And people still got scammed. Joen watched these people with an amused grin, who wanted returns yelling in the world chat. He didn't stop them at all, just treated it like a clown show. But what surprised him a little was that no one even bothered to tell them. Without the algae oxygen tank, they would have already died from oxygen deprivation by now. Instead of yelling here about returning goods, also through transaction records, Joen found that among these people yelling for returns, one of them just traded an algae oxygen tank on the global trade channel. Joen checked the 10-person return blacklist and found he wasn't on the list. Joen set a no-repeat purchase rule this time, which means this person had never traded for an algae oxygen tank before. This guy is deliberately stirring up trouble among the group of people who want to return goods to push them into returning the items. Then when no one else knows what's going on, he snatches a tank for himself via trade. Oh my god. This world is full of deception and lies. Joen kept watching the chat channel messages until the first supply crate of the day arrived. Almost 3 hours had passed, and Joen's body had mostly recovered. After the seawater receded, he found no creatures came in with the supply crate, so he jumped off the wooden platform and opened the supply crate. Ding! Obtained, bread X1. Obtained, mineral water X1. What he got was food and water. Zhou Wen wasn't excited at all, and just put them away directly. He went back to the wooden platform, and kept waiting for the second supply crate. While waiting for the second supply crate, Zhou Wen received a private message. He opened it and found it was from Chen Xin. Mr. Zhou, I want to trade something with you. The second algae oxygen tank requires a blueprint for trade. Zhou Wen could pretty much guess what Chen Xin wanted to trade, so he named the price directly. But I also traded my first one with a blueprint. That's not how it works. You wanted to get the algae oxygen tank ahead of time, and volunteered to trade with a blueprint. I didn't even propose that. Of course I'm not some profiteer either, even though your first algae oxygen tank was obtained because you wanted it in advance. So you volunteered to trade a blueprint for it, but I can choose not to count it as your first one. You can still use 100 basic materials to trade for one on the trade channel. Mr. Zhou, you are such a great guy, huh? Chen Xin couldn't help making a sarcastic comment. What Zhou Wen said sounded really generous, but it was all total nonsense. Only 20 units are sold every day. Even if he's eligible to trade, how's he supposed to compete with 100 million people? At the end of the day, if you want to trade for the second algae oxygen tank directly from Zhou Wen, you still need a blueprint. I don't dare call myself a great guy. I'm just a little soft-hearted. I know everyone's having a hard time. Zhou Wen definitely knew Chen Xin was being sarcastic, but he didn't care at all. Anyway, he holds all the initiative right now. Trade if you want to. Don't trade if you don't want to. All right, I'm not messing with you anymore, Mr. Zhou. Actually, the reason I came to you this time is because I got something really good.
I think you might need it, Mr. Zhou.
So I came to ask you first. Right after Chen Xin sent this message, he sent an item information message right after. Zhou Wen opened it confusedly. Golden thread fruit, golden thread seaweed seed, grants +5. Strength when consumed. 4. After Zhou Wen read the information, he gasped in shock. It adds 5 points of strength. That's exactly what he badly needs right now. Where did you get this? Looking at the description, it can add 5 points of strength. It seems pretty good. It's worth quite a bit. How about trading it for one algae oxygen tank? Since you're not interested, Mr. Zhou, then forget it. I'll go trade with someone else. Hey, we can negotiate if you're not satisfied with the price. Just tell me what you want directly. Zhou Wen had originally wanted to act like he didn't care much, to lower the price. But Chen Xin is obviously not an idiot. So he stopped beating around the bush and directly told Chen Xin to name his price. I want 20 algae oxygen tanks, a set of spiny krill shell armor, and my fishbone blade blueprint. Take your golden thread fruit and get lost nicely. Zhou Wen was so angry he laughed. Are you here to wholesale or something? You open your mouth and ask for 20 algae oxygen tanks, and then a set of spiny armor. You even had the nerve to ask for the fishbone blade blueprint back. That's so shameless. You're asking way too much. Those 18 algae oxygen tanks, a set of spiny krill shell armor, plus my fishbone blade blueprint. Miss Chen, I'm not gonna beat around the bush with you. We're both smart people here. I'm no saint, sure, but all my past deals have been fair enough. That's probably why you're willing to come do business with me. I won't make you take the short end of the stick. Algae oxygen tanks. The spiked armor is also no problem. I can make you one fishbone blade, but there's no way I'm giving you the blueprint. If you want a blueprint, you know how valuable algae oxygen tanks are. You can trade for one yourself. That's my show of good faith. If you're still not happy with that, go find someone else to do business with. I see your good faith, Mr. Zhou, but that blueprint is worth a lot. Since you don't want to trade the blueprint, Mr. Zhou, I'd like to ask for something else instead. Miss Chen, you think you're real smart, huh? And everyone else is an idiot. That fishbone blade blueprint isn't yours. It's mine. You traded it to me of your own free will before. Now you're regretting it. You can't just ask for extra stuff now. You got me wrong, Mr. Zhou. I'm not asking for extra. I just think the terms you offered are a little bit lacking. So I was hoping you could throw in a little more. What else do you want then? The golden silk fruit is really important to Zhou Wen, as long as Chen Xin doesn't ask for something outrageous. He can still compromise a little more. I wonder what other item blueprints you have, Mr. Zhou. Can you tell me what they are? I can see if I need any of them. I already told you, I won't trade any blueprints. I don't want your blueprints. I just want to see what items those blueprints make. and check if I need any of them. After reading Chen Xing's message, Zhou, who was already a bit annoyed, frowned suddenly. She's trying to figure out what I have, huh? Blueprints are used to build or make items, right? If you know all the blueprints someone has, you can roughly guess how far along they are. And Zhou has the algae oxygen tank blueprint. He's definitely the most advanced person in this world right now. There's no way I'm telling you what blueprints I have. All right, fine. I'll throw in 2 super important items. What items? Chen Xing knew her little scheme was exposed, so she didn't push it further, and got curious about the important items Zhou Wen mentioned. The wooden platform is 1 meter tall and covers 1 square meter. I'll give you 2 of them. That way you won't have to soak in seawater anymore. You can also sleep on it, instead of sleeping on the damp ground. After Chen Xin read Zhou Wen's description, her eyes lit up. These are really important, great items. Inside the shape-shifting Leviathan's belly, there's not much danger right now. It's actually pretty safe, even, except when you're moving seaweed. You have to watch out for spiny krill. There's barely any risk otherwise, when there's no danger to worry about, and you've got your basic food needs covered. The next thing you want is to live comfortably. Spending half your day soaked in seawater, then sleeping on damp ground, is definitely not comfortable. The wooden platform is the perfect solution for all that. You've shown more than enough good faith, Mr. Zhou. Pleasure doing business with you. How do you want to do the trade, Miss Chen? List it on the trade channel. How about we do a private trade? You probably don't have any extra stone moss algae oxygen tanks right now, do you? No, I don't. What I mean is I hope you can trade me the golden silk fruit first. As for the items I owe you, I'll give them all to you later. You must be joking, Mr. Zhou. I'm not joking at all. I know you're worried I'll go back on my word, but if you look at all the trades I've done with people lately, you should be able to tell I'm a very honest person. This golden silk fruit is really important to me. The sooner I get it, the better. I'll give you a set of spiked armor and 2 wooden platforms first for the trade. I'll give you the rest as soon as I can. You can't make the fishbone blade right now either. The material needed for the fishbone blade is a 1 meter long fish spine. How rare it is. You should know that yourself. Chen Xing thought over Zhou Wen's request for a moment and finally decided to agree. She's actually been watching Zhou Wen for a while now. He's got a total shady profiteer vibe, but he's actually pretty fair when making deals. Add 2 more algae oxygen generators, and I'll agree to trade you the golden silk fruit ahead of schedule. Sure, that's 12 units total. Right after, Zhou Wen immediately made the spiked chest plate, spiked leg armor, spiked boots, spiked groin guard, spiked bracers, spiked helmet, and spiked belt, all fully crafted. This used up a total of 38 shrimp shells, 7 pieces of spiked gear, 2 wooden platforms. Sent the trade request. Successfully traded for the golden silk fruit Chen Xing had. I hope Mr. Zhou will keep your end of the deal. Relax, a person has to have integrity. If we want mutual benefits, I know that full well. Trade with Chen Xing completed. Zhou Wen stared at the golden silk fruit in his hand, thrilled. A look of pure ecstasy spread across his face. The reason Zhou Wen was this happy wasn't that the golden silk fruit adds 5 strength points. It was that the golden silk fruit's description mentioned. The golden silk fruit is the seed of golden silk seaweed. When Zhou Wen first saw that description, he could barely contain his excitement. But to keep the sharp Chen Xing from noticing something was off, he dragged out the negotiations with him till now. It turns out all the blueprints obtained from supply crates actually have a use. It's just that the right time to use them hasn't come yet. Zhou Wen sighed with emotion. He opened the system interface, switched over to the blueprints page. Staring at the seaweed planter box blueprint, his grin grew even wider. Build it. Zhou Wen built it right away without hesitation. The seaweed planter box requires 20 pieces of stone to craft. Zhou Wen looked at the pile of stones in the corner. He had more than enough stone right now, but the world system didn't respond at all. Zhou Wen glanced back at the seaweed planter box blueprint. Oh right, it also needs seawater. I can only build it once the second. Supply crate gets here. Zhou Wen carefully put away the golden silk fruit. Although Chen Xing didn't mention how he obtained the golden silk fruit. But based on the golden silk fruit's description, the golden silk fruit is the seed of golden silk seaweed. That means Chen Xing came across golden silk seaweed. Chen Xing only had 1 algae oxygen generator before, so he moved seaweed pretty slowly, and judging by when Chen Xing came to trade with him, it was roughly some time after he finished moving. All the seaweed which means golden silk seaweed isn't something you get from supply crates. It's a special variant of seaweed, and Chen Xing just happened to run into it. Of course, when it comes to luck, I'm such a bad luck magnet. There was nothing else to do next, so he kept lying on the wooden platform, waiting for the second supply crate. 2 or 3 hours later, the esophageal diaphragm opened. Seawater rushed in. The second supply crate arrived. But this time, there were creatures in the seawater. Zhou hid behind the algae oxygen generator, then opened the blueprint's interface, and crafted the seaweed planter box. Once the seawater receded, Zhou heard a familiar slapping sound. He shined the light over that way. And sure enough, he saw a glowing streak flopping around there. It was a smooth-skinned barracuda. Now that he knew the creature in the water was a smooth-skinned barracuda, Zhou relaxed. He jumped off the wooden platform to check out the seaweed planter box he just built. The look of the seaweed planter box is basically a copy of the algae oxygen generator, just twice the size of the algae oxygen generator. It's a stone tank that's 1 meter in length, width, and height, filled to the brim with seawater, with lots of small pebbles piled at the bottom. Zhou was confused at first, since there was no dirt listed as a crafting material for the seaweed planter box. So where was he supposed to plant the golden silk fruit? When he saw the pebbles piled at the bottom, he realized these small pebbles were what he was supposed to plant it in. Zhou dug a small hole in the pile of pebbles and carefully placed the golden silk fruit inside, then gently covered it with pebbles. He had no idea how long golden silk seaweed takes to mature and bear fruit, considering the golden silk fruit adds 5 strength points. Its growth time probably isn't short, at least longer than watermelons and sweet potatoes. Speaking of watermelons and sweet potatoes, Zhou thought of the low-grade fertilizer he had just finished making, but he had no idea if low-grade fertilizer works on golden silk seaweed. Whatever, I'll wait till the golden silk fruit sprouts first. The golden silk fruit was already planted. Zhou found today's second supply crate and opened it. Ding, obtained inventory slot X1 inventory slot. What he got this time made Zhou freeze for a second. Then he saw a notification pop up on the character stat panel. Zhou opened the character stats interface and found that next to the character stat panel, there was a blue box inventory slot. Can store 1 piece of gear or weapon inside. Zhou tapped the blue box. A notification popped up in his head. That also let Zhou know what the equipment slot does. Zhou tried putting the spiked chest plate into his equipment slot. After a flash of blue light, the spiked chest plate appeared in the equipment slot. Then he had a thought in his head, and the spiked chest plate was instantly on his body. This is such a great item, Zhou exclaimed in surprise. Of course, Zhou knew what equipment slots were. He's been a gamer for over a decade after all, but he never expected that in this world. Equipment slots actually work too. That caught him completely off guard. But each equipment slot can only hold 1 piece of armor or weapon, and after testing, he found they can't hold anything that's not equipment. Food, water, basic materials, none of them work. Only armor and weapons are accepted. Looks like you can get multiple equipment slots. Each equipment slot holds exactly 1 piece of equipment. For the full spiked armor set, Zhou already has 7 pieces right now. Add the fishbone knife, that's 8 pieces of equipment total, so he needs to collect way more equipment slots. Just 1 is pretty much useless. Zhou messed around with the equipment slot for a bit, then got to work processing the mirror skin barracuda. He cut the fish meat into 3 portions and listed them on the trade channel to swap for equipment slots. But Zhou didn't think the odds of a successful swap were high. He was just giving it a shot. He used the fish bones to make fishbone blades. Then he took the used fishbone blade and traded it to Chen Xing. He kept the new one for himself. Last time you sold mirror skin barracuda meat, you said it gives +1 to both constitution and speed, right? Right after Zhou sent the fishbone blade to Chen Xing, Chen Xing sent him a message asking that, "Yep, you want some?"
Sure, what's the price?
2 algae oxygen generators. Mr. Zhou, you really don't let anyone get a good deal, huh? Ms. Chen, you've already gotten plenty of good deals from me. That golden silk dog gives +5 strength. And you took a ton of my stuff for it. The mirror skin barracuda meat only gives 2 stat points total. I'm only asking for 2 algae oxygen generators. How am I the one getting a good deal here? Strength is way more valuable than other stats, you know that. Fine, I don't want the algae oxygen generators anymore. Just give me 1 portion of the mirror skin barracuda meat. Zhou happily went to the trade channel to take down 1 listing of the mirror skin barracuda meat and traded it to Chen. It's always better to avoid competing for food that belongs to the illusion Leviathan anyway. He'd already rested for the time it takes for 2 supply crates to spawn. So Jowen's stamina was almost fully recovered. He still hadn't done his 100 push-ups for the day. No way he was going to abandon the plan he made just yesterday. On the very first day, right? So for the next little while, Shuwen worked through his daily 100 push-up routine. Once he finished all 100 push-ups, it was almost time for the 3rd supply crate of the day to arrive. Jowen glanced at the fuzzy worm corpses piled in the corner. Fuzzy worm corpses aren't edible, and they take up way too much space. So Jowen took his fishbone knife and cut the corpses into small pieces, then threw them all into the digestion tank to get rid of them. A little while later, the 3rd supply crate of the day arrived. The water was calm. No creatures swam into the shelter. Once the seawater receded, Jowen opened the supply crate without any issues. Ding, you have obtained locker blueprint. Huh. Jowen froze for a second, then was overcome with joy. This is literally perfect timing. I was just worrying about where to put all the supplies I get from trades, and now I get a locker blueprint out of nowhere. Grinning from ear to ear, Jowen used the locker blueprint, then checked the required crafting materials. Locker blueprint requires 20 units of wood. The material requirement is pretty low, so Jowen tapped the craft button on the blueprint interface with his finger. 20 units of wood flew out of the supply crate, turned into blue light and formed into a wooden cabinet that's 2 meters tall and 1 meter wide. According to the blueprint description, the locker has 100 storage slots inside. Each slot can stack up to 100 units of supplies. That means one single locker can store up to 10,000 units of basic supplies. Even though Jowen has a lot of basic materials right now, it only adds up to a little over 3,000 units total, which doesn't even fill half of the locker's space. The best part is it takes up barely any space. It only needs 1 square meter of floor space to hold all of his supplies. After placing the locker down, Jowen immediately got to work, and first put all 900 units of stone piled in the corner into the locker. Then he moved all the supplies stored in the supply crates over to the locker. Half an hour later, all items from the 22 supply crates were moved successfully. Now that the supply crates were empty, they were useless. So he listed 10 empty supply crates on the trade channel and threw the remaining 12 supply crates into the digestion tank as trash. Jowen can't put 22 supply crates on the shelves all at once, because that would be telling everyone that from the very first day he gets 3 supply crates every single day. That would obviously give away all his secrets. Sure, Jowen could say he traded them from others, but once the seed of doubt is planted, it will definitely draw extra attention from some people, and that's definitely not a good thing. Human nature is greedy, right now even though there's no chance for any survivors to run into each other. But what about later? People don't worry about scarcity, they worry about inequality. If there's conflict between people later on, Jowen will definitely be the target of public criticism. 10 supply crates. Jowen didn't set the price too high. After all, everyone has access to these, and most people don't have a lot of basic materials. They can't even fill up their own supplies, so they don't need to buy extra supply crates at all. So Jowen set the price for each supply crate at 10 units of basic materials. People who will trade for supply crates definitely have lots of basic materials. 10 units of basic materials is super cheap for them. Besides, Jowen has another reason for selling supply crates, and that's to see who's developing relatively fast. People who need supply crates definitely have more basic materials than they can store. That means this person has items they can sell long-term to exchange for basic materials. After waiting for a little while, someone actually bought the supply crates. And what's more, they bought all 10 supply crates in one go. Jowen glanced at this person's profile picture and found it really unfamiliar. It seemed like he had never interacted with this person before. So Jowen started scrolling through the global trade channel. After scrolling through trade messages for a while, Jowen saw the items that this person was selling on the global channel. Filtered fresh water, trades for 10 units of basic materials. Filtered fresh water. After seeing the message that the other person was selling fresh water, Jowen's eyes widened slightly. This is definitely a solid, long-term, profitable business. Why didn't I get the freshwater filtration method? Jowen felt a little jealous in his heart, but after he read the description of the filtered freshwater, his jealous feelings completely disappeared. Filtered freshwater. Freshwater obtained by simply filtering urine can be consumed in small quantities. Okay, I thought it was seawater filtration. Turns out it's urine filtration. And it's only simple filtration, too. But now that I think about it, that makes sense. Where would anyone get materials to filter seawater or urine right now? Chuwen originally wanted to ask the other person if they sold the filtered freshwater method, but he gave up on that idea right away. Chuwen took a look at this person's purchase requests and found that they were indeed buying a lot of urine. Chuwen suddenly realized there was a hidden problem with this whole thing, and that is that most of the survivors in this world are actually having a really hard time. This person selling water filtered from urine even has enough basic materials to fill up all their supply crates. That just shows how many people are short on water. Whatever, it's none of my business. It's not like I'm having a great time either. Joen was just attacked today by 2 young bristleworms and almost drowned in the water. He's having a pretty tough time, too. He just doesn't have to worry about food and drink, that's all. Wait a minute. Even if you can't drink a lot of this filtered fresh water, I can use it to water my watermelons and sweet potatoes. That way I can save my mineral water. Chuwen suddenly realized this point, so he immediately used 100 units of basic materials to trade for 10 bottles of filtered fresh water. Right now, the leaves of the watermelons and sweet potatoes have already covered the entire small planter box. The bigger the plants grow, the more fresh water they need. This filtered fresh water perfectly solves this problem. Joen poured 1 bottle of filtered fresh water into each of the 2 small planter boxes. He didn't put away the remaining 8 bottles and just left them next to the small planter boxes for easier watering later. But the main reason is actually that the bottles holding the filtered fresh water are just regular mineral water bottles. Joen was scared that if he put them in the storage cabinet, one day he might accidentally drink them as mineral water without thinking. That would be so gross. Day 8. The manifested Leviathan starts moving around. Chuwen also woke up from his sleep when the unclosed space started to shake. The moment he sat up, he felt sore all over his body. Joen slowly stood up and moved his sore body around a little. Yesterday, he was wearing over 100 pounds of, spiked armor and thrashing around wildly in the water. All his muscles were working overtime. It'd be weirder if he didn't feel sore, even though it was pretty dangerous. Thrashing around in the water while wearing heavy armor counts as a form of exercise, I guess, Chuwen said with a bitter smile. After he finished moving his body and got used to the soreness, Joen immediately went to the seagrass planter box and looked inside expectantly at the full, leaned over to look into the stone tank full of seawater, hoping to see the golden silk fruit sprout. But there was nothing in the stone tank at all. Joen felt a little disappointed, but that was also within his expectation. The golden silk fruit can boost strength by 5 points. It definitely takes longer to grow than ordinary plants. Since there was no progress with the golden silk fruit, Joen walked over to the watermelon and sweet potato, crops he checks on every day recently. After one night of growth, the vines of the watermelon and sweet potato had already filled the small planter box to the brim, and among the patches of green leaves, there was a pop of yellow there blooming. When Joen spotted that touch of yellow in the watermelon vines, he squatted down immediately and moved the blocking leaves aside with his hand, and saw a small yellow flower with 5 petals. It's blooming so soon. Looks like it won't be long before we can eat watermelons, Joen said expectantly with a smile on his face. After checking the small yellow flower of the watermelon, Joen then reached into the sweet potato vines and rummaged around a bit. He didn't find any flowers on the sweet potato vines. The sweet potatoes were planted on the 5th day, 1 day later than the watermelons. They should bloom tomorrow. But it's also possible that sweet potatoes don't bloom at all. Joen thought for a moment and guessed. As for the pollination needed for these crops to bear fruit, Chuwen ignored that directly. The months-long growth period of watermelons has been compressed to just a few days. The pollination process must have been skipped too. After checking all his crops, Joen was in a great mood and ate a piece of bread and half a bottle of water. That counted as his breakfast. Right now, Joen eats 2 meals a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. He skips lunch. After all, he needs to carry seaweed in the morning, and from noon onwards for the rest of the day. He usually has nothing to do, so he doesn't burn any energy. There's no need to eat then. Chuwen has lots of basic materials right now, so he's not short of food. Even if the stored food runs out, he can trade for more in the trade channel. Eating 3 meals a day is totally doable. The reason why Joen doesn't eat 3 meals a day is partly to save food, but mostly because he's been eating bread for 7 or 8 days. He's sick of eating bread. If he had to eat bread 3 times a day, he really can't stomach it anymore. When can I get better food? Shu Wen mumbled in a low voice. Joen really craves salty food right now. It's been so many days. Whether it's the body's need for salt or the taste buds' craving for saltiness, they keep making him think of the good food he used to eat. Slurp, thinking of those delicious foods. Joen was already drooling. Humans are really such greedy creatures. Shuwen suddenly thought of a few days ago, when he was hungry every day. Back then, he only wanted to eat his fill every day. Now that he can eat enough, he starts thinking about eating better food. Just then, the sound of surging seawater came from the esophagus, which interrupted Jowen's fantasy. The manifested Leviathan had started eating. Jowen quickly hid behind the algae oxygen tank and put on the spiked helmet with one hand. Then he accessed the equipment bar to take out the spiked leg armor. With a thought, the spiked leg armor appeared directly on his legs.